This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Beneroff, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. White Plains Week, what's happening? Who are the newsmakers? What's in store for the future? The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. and Ms. White Plains, Westchester, and the world at large. This is the Old Citizen-Net Reporter, and Jim Beneroff is on assignment tonight. Now, to the headlines. Mayor Tom Roach announces $26 million 25-year contract with solar energy firm to install solar panels on 8 city properties. He seeks to expand the program to commercial properties if they would like to do so. Former Good Counsel property gets a new site plan from its developer. The city consultant announces DEC declares landfill safe. An 8th accident occurs a week ago on Tarrytown Road at the White Plains Gateway, killing a pedestrian. Andrew Scarpino, the district attorney, wins Democratic County Committee nomination for DA by 1 vote in the county committee. Westchester County and Standard Amusements told by bankruptcy court judge to go back and negotiate. County case for Standard being in breach of contract is not convincing, the judge says. Cornerstone development of White Plains Transit District, the White Plains Mall, is a long way off from starting. The site plan is allowed to lapse because the developer said they were so busy. Really? Mac Calley introduces new 20-story building on Water Street and showcases it. And Kobe Bryant passes away. Governor Cuomo visits Auschwitz-Birkenau on Holocaust Remembrance Day in a very meaningful gesture by the governor. And now let's go to the White Plains Week video newsreel, March of Time for January 31st, 2020. And there you see the White Plains television view of the Common Council work session Monday evening, a historic work session to say the least, and we want to tell you all about the big news that came out of that meeting. And the big news was announced by Mayor Roach right off the bat. Here is the mayor.
So the concept was put out this RFP, offer the sites to developers who could get the tax credits and therefore pay us real money for their use of the facilities. So I was surprised at how well we did. The bid was significantly higher than the others, but it's going to be over $900,000 a year income for the city at the same time that we are generating. We're going to basically triple the current generation of solar energy in our city of all sources. This project alone basically triple that generation. And I'll just note as a side comment, we have another program we're in the middle of working with commercial properties, identifying the commercial properties that can generate the most solar power, and then preparing a package that shows them the tax incentives that are out there, not from the city, but from state and federal, to encourage them to do this. So we have real opportunity in the city of only 10 square miles to generate a lot of solar power, and we're hoping, we're willing to share what we've learned with any other community that wants to take a look at it, and we're hoping that many will, because we're all in this together, and the more power we generate.
Yes, and in the press release that came out after this meeting, we find out that the community solar model produces solar energy that goes back to the grid and allows residents who enroll in the program to receive a credit on their bill every month. It's estimated to be perhaps about 10%. The program is going to generate 6 megawatts of power annually, which is enough energy to power 4,800 homes a year. This equates to a reduction of 46,400 tons of carbon dioxide, which is equivalent to removing 8,900 passenger cars from the road. And it will be completed in March 2021, they say, and this is absolutely terrific. Now, Dick Hart, then the Commissioner of Public Works, then took the podium to explain the program and how it's going to work.
Consideration tonight, I'm going to talk about the community solar program and what we went through to get to where we are right now. DPW, along with New York Power Authority, prepared an RFP, and we solicited over 100 vendors to submit proposals to us. And in that proposal, the options were to look at all our properties. We didn't want to limit you to anything, but you tell us, maybe you have better ideas than we ever thought of, than something that we weren't aware of. So we opened it up to anything that they thought was a good choice. And we got 8 viable proposals from some very good vendors. And after a vetting process with New York Power Authority, there was one clear choice for us, and that was Distributed Solar Projects. We call them DSP. But DSP is a company that is a spin-off of GE Solar, so General Electric Solar, who one of the best-known companies in the business, and very well-renowned, very well, highly recommended by New York Power Authority to us. And we were happy with the proposal that they got. Some of the others were very good too, but theirs was clearly the best choice for us. So just to give you some details, 8 facilities were chosen, and if you can see the list, you can see that it's parking garages, it's a roof of parking garages, it's roofs of buildings, it's a Gilly parking lot, the Eversole ice rink, Chaplain Place garage. All of these were deemed to be very good candidates for what we wanted to do. This is Chester Maple Garage with the full coverage solar panels on top of it. And what was interesting to us along with this proposal is everybody's familiar with traditional solar panels, you know, on an angle that go like this, and if they're on the roof of the garage, they just tip and the snow hits and falls down on the floor and the rain falls down on the floor again. DSP had a proprietary system, and this is it. So what it forms is on the roof of the garages, this will form a roof over the garage, a waterproof roof, so there's no more snow to remove from the roofs, there's no more rain if you park your car up there, so the maintenance advantages to the city were tremendous, and the advantage to the users who park in the garage is also tremendous. It's now with the new lighting and it's dry. It's really and it's a high ceiling, so it's a very desirable space, and it will be moving forward in the garages. So, I mean, aside from all the money that we're going to get, this was a wonderful thing, and I thought, and John Larson also agreed that this was a good thing for the city. The other kind is a roof canopy that would be on an open parking lot, much like the Gilly parking lot. So again, wide span, so we can plow the lot. It won't interfere with what we're going to do. You get the idea. This is a typical flush-mounted roof panel. That's an overhead view of the sanitation building and the city garage. This is the building if you're driving on 287, it's on your right-hand side if you're going westbound. Large roof, large expansive roof. This is well suited towards the solar panels also, but you get the idea of the coverage just by looking at what's up there. Similar roof panels, similar coverage on the Eversole ice rink roof. which again, you can see from the highway, but it's very visible from the road, but you can tell the expanse of it, and it's, again, another good candidate. Ground mounted, this is at Gedney Yard. This will be by far the biggest installation. This is at the south end of the Gedney Yard. If you're familiar with it, it's the landfill area at the end where the grass is. The driveway loops around, and this is everything south of that. It's a southern facing slope.
And that is just a terrific overview by Mr. Hart on what they plan to do. And over the 26-year life of the contract with the contractor, the city will be paid approximately $26 million. We don't know if there's some opportunity to adjust that upwards during the contract or not, but still, this is going to be good for everybody considering the state of the climate change affecting this area and our electric bills. Now, another intriguing happening on Monday evening at the work session was that the developer of 52 North Broadway, shown here,
the project site and
gave
the
us
redevelopment.
a good overview.
Not only the redevelopment that we propose, but any redevelopment of the site. And the first is the fill area, right? The city hired their own independent environmental consultants, as you know. They made a presentation to you on their results, and this is what they said. Not what I said, these are their conclusions. The fill area is safe today. That was their number one conclusion. It can be left as is with no impact to public health. All the liner penetrations were sealed at the end of the testing that VHB undertook on behalf of the city. The sampling of the fill material is consistent with all previous investigations, including the investigations done by the previous owners, and everything on record at DEC. It consists of construction and demolition debris. Upon receiving the report from the city's consultants, the DEC wrote the City of White Plains a letter. And among other things, the DEC said, sampling of the fill material does not show that it is contaminated at levels considered hazardous. Putting those two together, the city's consultant said the fill area can be redeveloped. As long as that redevelopment happens in accordance with the DEC-approved plan, which plan would be protective of public health, it can be redeveloped. So long term, we're going to cap the fill area. About half of it will be capped under a building, under concrete, a permanent cap. Everything outside that building would be covered in a brand new geomembrane liner with new fill, clean fill on top of it. So we're going to start with introducing townhouse uses. So 28 townhouses we're proposing on the site. 2-story townhouses, 25 to 30 feet. Obviously a much lower scale, much lower intensity use for the site. The next component is a 48-unit workforce housing building. So this is a multi-family building, and why we're calling it workforce housing is the units are relatively small. Average unit size, 712 square feet. 87% of the units as studios or one-bedrooms. So really, we're not aiming at the luxury residential market here. We're aiming at workforce affordable housing with the lowercase w, lowercase a. We're still proposing the assisted living use. We think it's a great use for the site, great use for the community, and we're going to pair it with an independent senior living or independent living use. And for those of you, well, independent living can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. In this case, what we're proposing is an age-restricted senior living community, 232 dwelling units. Each unit would have a full kitchen, full bath. But what makes an independent living building different is that you're in a community with enhanced services. So in addition to the normal building amenities, you'd have staff on site to help residents. You'd have additional common rooms and rooms for doctors to come in. And most importantly, you'd have a large commercial kitchen.
And this is an intriguing new development because it scales down the whole project. Here is the view from the road with the proposed North Broadway. Look, right there. It is very similar to what it looks like now. So very little impact on the street view, one of the concerns. And here is what the overall project looks like. This is a rendering, and the townhouses will go at the top and the bottom. In orange, the assisted living is only 85 feet tall. That's a big difference from the 110 feet it was originally going to be, and that's 232 units. And then the assisted living in the lower right is 103 units, and the townhouses are also spread along the base of the property, and 610 residents will be accommodated, down from 1,085. The traffic circulation will be actually circular in from North Broadway on the left, up to the left over to the top townhouses, down to the assisted living, and then out. It's completely circular, and they feel this is a big improvement. And this will now go to the Common Council. However, even though the slide was that the developer spokesperson said was safe, it was pointed out to me that in no way has the DEC approved this site plan. That has to be approved by the Common Council and then sent up to the DEC for their final approval. So a number of months ahead. So far, I haven't heard any reaction from the neighbors about this, but the city and the developer worked on this. And once again, it seems like an excellent compromise to me on the service, but the council has to decide that, not me. Now, there was another tragic accident in Greenberg last Friday, right after we finished taping last week's show, and that is where a pedestrian was struck by an oncoming car. We don't know exactly whether he was running a red light, but the pedestrian was crossing and was killed. He died in the hospital. And Town Supervisor Paul Feiner had a big meeting on Tuesday thinking about what they could do with the police. And so far, we haven't had any results out of that meeting from Mr. Feiner. But somebody has to do something. How about red light cameras? That makes sense to me. People aren't stopping and they're zipping along that street. And we feel sorry for someone crossing the street, doing the right thing, and a driver doesn't see him. Unbelievable. Now, at the Common Council on Monday evening, we got a good look at the new One Water Street project. There is what One Water Street looks like now on the left, and the Mac Cali proposes a 20-story building, basically market housing, probably some affordable housing, and it is right across the street from the train station, perhaps one of the most convenient places you can live once it gets built, and it is quite a scene. And there was a bit of bad news this week for the county. If we can go to the next slide. Martin Ginsburg held a soiree over at 50 Main Street, and he demonstrated a new portion of it that has already been built, and he also talked a lot about what he was going to be doing on Main Street. The mayor was there, Janet Langston was there, who is donating art, and Mr. Ginsburg talked that he was going to bring in restaurants on Main Street. There would be a walk through the station and outdoor dining excitement up on the deck shown here, and also he also expressed that it would really liven up Main Street. However, when he brings in those restaurants, I think they have to be better acoustically designed than most of the restaurants today. And hopefully they will be that way so that you can hear yourself talk in a new restaurant. That is one of the big problems of eating in restaurants today. They're cacophonous because the ceilings are very hard and they bounce the sound off. And the reason we used to think that people that were obviously dating were talking and letting people interrupt them on the cell phones, but I think the restaurants are so noisy that the only way the woman can talk to the man or the man talk to the woman is by texting them across the table. That's how loud restaurants are today. Now, coming to a serious matter, clouds over Playland developed this week. And what happened was the bankruptcy judge on Wednesday ruling on the Standard Amusements breach of contract suit against the county when the county threw them out and took over the playland. The judge did not like the county's case, and he told Standard Amusements and Westchester County to get back together and negotiate a compromise. This is a disaster for the county, because this is either going to cost us money and a huge settlement to buy Standard out, or Standard is going to be back in the game as the operator, which of course the county did not want, which was the way it happened. And we'll have to see how this works out. It is not good news, and it certainly puts Playland in doubt once again. This has been going on for like 4 or 5 years, and it's just absurd. There was a meeting of the county Democratic Committee meeting this week, and in it they nominated Anthony Scarpino, the incumbent district attorney, to run for district attorney with the Democratic Party nomination, but he only won, from my sources tell me, by 1 vote over Mimi Roca, the MSNBC commentator and former prosecutor, and it will be an interesting race in the primary on June the 23rd. In other election news, the David Buchwald continues to collect endorsements, and we await some more action from his challengers. Now, the thing that shocked everybody this week was the death of Kobe Bryant, shown in action. Great star in the NBA. He died in a helicopter crash with his daughter and 7 other persons. And the tragedy of this is it appears that a lot of mistakes were made on the actual aviation safety side. And I heard a broadcast of the air traffic controller telling him he was too low. Now, usually when we have flight following on our flights, if there's something out there that might run into you, they say, go down 400 feet now, or something very imperative like that. So you really have to wonder what was happening there. And now, another very important thing that happened is, of course, the impeachment trial of President Trump seems to about ready to be decided. It looks as if, as of Friday morning, the Republicans have the votes to make the acquittal of President Trump stand up. And interestingly enough, the reason it is probably going to stand up is because the Senate is going to come to the same conclusion they did in 1868 when a similar case, which I discussed last week, was brought against the then President Andrew Johnson, who was following policies that the Democrats in Congress did not like, and they impeached him. They did not like the fact that he was not protecting freed slaves who returned to the South and were being murdered by the Ku Klux Klan, and he did not act against the Jim Crow laws that the South reinstalled during that time, and they did not ask for his removal. They voted by 1 vote not to do that. And the idea was of that case, the way it is interpreted by legal scholars, is that you can't just throw a president out because you don't like his policies. Because you don't like his policies. And it is intriguing that the cases are so similar, but only I have talked about this case. I mean, you don't need all this mumbo jumbo that Trump's defenders have put out there. And all you need to go is back to 1868, and it's all right there. Now, another great thing that happened this week, Andrew Cuomo visited Auschwitz-Birkenau in Poland on the 70th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz by Soviet troops. And Governor Cuomo is to be saluted. He went there because we could not. And he created a little video, and let's listen to what he has to say.
We're going to commemorate the 75th anniversary of Auschwitz to pay respect. The anti-Semitic acts that we have seen, the worst of which was in Muncie and Rockland County, are as disgusting as they are shocking. The anti-Semitism we've seen across the state must never happen again. As a government, we're doing everything we can. We put more funding for the hate crimes in the state police. We proposed the first domestic terrorism law in the United States of America. As the state government, our message is loud and clear. We have zero tolerance for any discrimination. It is illegal, it is immoral, it will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, period. And I am committed to that.
And that was a video by the governor's office. And I must compliment the photographers in their pictures of the governor at Auschwitz, captured the impact dramatically of what that place represents. It is so overwhelming to see that, and even in still photos, it speaks volumes. And we thank the governor for going there to represent New Yorkers, because most of us could not. This is John Bailey saying good night for Jim Beneroff and White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week, news and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.